What's up, everyone? And today I'm bringing a deck profile on my Weather Painters. Now, Weather Painters is a very interesting deck that can gain the effects of their spells. And, well, not recently anymore, but actually got some new support, some really good support that really makes this deck a lot stronger and can actually compete. Granted, it's not topping, but it's a deck that actually has potential for that now. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First, I run 3 Weather Painter Snow. Snow, when it is normal summoned, you can place 1 Weather spell trap from your deck face up in your spell and traps. That's what most of them, but instead of setting it or adding it to your hand, most of the Weather Painters will place it on the field. So that really works with your traps, essentially. Although the traps really aren't going to do anything on your first turn, but they work with the field spell once we get to that. Now, the way the Weather Painters works is they gain the effects of the spells that are either in the same column or adjacent to it, and they banish as cost. And the Weather Painters, it's the spells that give them that effect, but the Weather Painters, if they are banished by activating their own effect, which is the effect they were given to them by the spells, they can special summon themselves back during the standby phase. Also, run 3 Thunder. Additionally, I do want to mention that all the Weather Painters have that effect to come back. Thunder, you can send 1 face-up continuous spell trap control to the graveyard, then place 1 weather spell trap from your deck face-up in your spell and trap zone. I also run 3, the Weather Painter Cloud. Cloud, if a face-up weather card you control is sent to the graveyard, you can target 2 weather spell traps in your graveyard, place them face-up in your spell and trap zone. This card wasn't all that great before, but with the field spell, it works a lot better because the field spell has an effect where you can link someone using your spells and traps. So you can literally just do that, and Cloud will just bring them right back. Also run the 1 Weather Painter Sun, which can special summon you can send a face-up continuous spell trap control to the graveyard. Special summon this card from your graveyard. If you place a weather spell trap from your hand face-up in your spell and trap zone. Also run the 1 Aura. It has an effect when it's normal summoned, but you really don't normal summon it. When it's normal summon, you can place a weather spell trap from your hand, deck, or graveyard face up in your spell trap zone. You don't really use it for that effect, but you mainly use it for the secondary effect to where it can protect your Weather Painter spell, or not your Weather Painter, your canvas spells and traps. Or the weather spell traps, yeah. And it's also a 22 attack, which is pretty good because it helps with being able to get over some things. Next, we play arguably the best hand trap currently in the game, D-Shifter. It's good against both sprites and elements. Moving on to the spells, I run 3, the Weather Forecast. The Weather Forecast is insane for this deck. It really speeds up this deck because before this deck was pretty slow. So when this card is activated, you can place a weather spell trap from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone. And if the weather link monster would be link summoned, you can also use face up weather cards in your spell and trap zone. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon a Weather Painter monster. Also running 1 Terraforming. Yeah, definitely a card you always want to see. Next, I run 3 Snowy Canvas. Now here's where you see the effect is the weather effect monsters in your main monster zone of this card's column and its adjacent column gain this effect. Now, all the weather continuous spells and traps do this. So this is definitely a deck where column placement does matter a lot. And this has an effect to where you can banish this card, quick effect, add 1 weather card from your deck to your hand. Also, you cannot add cards from your deck to your hand for the rest of this turn except by drawing them. Now, when it says banish this card, it's not referring to the Snowy Canvas. It's referring to the monster that's in front of it, or in its adjacent column. Next, I run 1 Rainy Canvas. This one is for spells and traps. You can banish this card, the entire spell trap opponent controls, quick effect, returns to the hand. So it can be really useful at getting rid of annoying floodgates or something like that. And the cool thing is that this deck works around Skill Drain. Granted, we don't play Skill Drain, mainly because it works around Skill Drain, but it doesn't. Like the Link monsters don't. However, if you don't want to focus on the links or the field spell, then Skill Drain is definitely a card you're going to want to run in this deck because they banish for cost, which protects their effect from activating, so it can be useful at getting rid of annoying floodgates and all sorts of things. Also run the 1 Clouded Canvas. That more or less reduces attack. It's more or less just run it for its name. Next, I run 3 Pure Ice Map. Pure Ice Map allows you to add during your main phase 1, add 1 monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, but have your life points in. You cannot use its effects until you normal summon it. And we only have one monster that really qualifies for this, which is Snow. But Snow is essentially the card you always want to open up because it can place a weather spell trap into the zone, which can then help set up for your Link summon. Without it, it becomes much harder, so it's definitely nice to have that Snow in hand. Now the next card, well, yes, I do have Extravagance right here. I'd definitely say Prosperity is better, but the Megatons has not come out as the recording of this video, so I don't quite have my Prosperities yet. So I'm just using the Extravagance as like a placeholder for it. So I guess imagine like this is Prosperity. But you definitely want to have because it can help you get to your Snow, your Pure Ice map, or any of your continuous spells. Next, 3 Dark Ruler and 1 more. We're not likely to OTK. This deck has like no OTK potential, unless you may want to include access code, which maybe it could with access code, but even then, that's still not going to be the easiest thing to do. So having that Dark Ruler and just negating your opponent's board, just completely shutting it off is definitely going to be very helpful. Also run the 1 Dimensional Fissure. Yeah, activate this against sprites or tier limits. They're probably just going to surrender on that. Next, for the traps, I run 3 Thundery Canvas and the 1 Rainbowed Canvas. So Thundery Canvas, whenever your opponent whenever your monster battles with another card, you can banish this card, return that opponent's monster to the hand. So this is definitely really good for controlling your opponent's board. And it definitely makes them think twice before attacking into any of their monsters. And the really cool thing is how it works with tier limits. So your tier limits effects activate when they are sent to the graveyard. Without being sent to the graveyard, they're being returned to the hand. You also got the Rainbow Canvas, which opponent controls a monster. Banish discard quick effect. Spell summon 1 weather monster with a different name from your deck, but you cannot spell summon monsters from the deck for the rest of the turn. Originally, I was playing this at 3 copies, but with the way the deck is now, I feel like 3 is a little too much. Because unfortunately, going first, this card is completely dead because your opponent isn't going to have any monsters. However, going second, obviously it's going to be pretty good. So you can just place it on the field. But going first, it's just going to be a dead card, so I just cut it down for some other cards. Also run 1 Macrocosmos, same reason as D-Shifter and Dimensional Fissure. Banishing cards is really good this format. And lastly, 3 Anti-Spell Fragrance. Originally, I was kind of going back and forth on the last, because originally I had in Rivalry of Warlords, but then I thought about it. Rivalry doesn't really do much to tier elements, sprites. Like, it affects the deck somewhat, but not that much. So I was thinking, what are the things that are going to hurt this deck going first the most? Dark Ruler, Lightning Storm, Droplet. So at least with this, we can essentially just shut that off. And for any deck that uses a bunch of spells, it's going to become a lot harder. So it can also shut down the Adventure Engine as well. Moving on to the extra deck. I run 2 Weather Painter Rainbow, although you can't play 3. The cool thing with Rainbow is its first effect to where it can send itself to the graveyard to negate the summon of a monster, so it's like a judgment kind of in a way. But it has an additional effect to give your monsters effects just like the continuous spells and traps. So every monster this card points to gains this effect. When a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can banish this card, negate the activation. If you do, destroy it. And the cool thing with this is if you have 3 Weather Painter monsters, you can use that 3 times. Not to mention if you have a way to get another one on the field, that'll just be even more, in addition to the plays you already have. And that's really good, considering those 3 negates are just going to keep coming back and keep coming back. That's why the field spell, the Forecast, is so good. Because before, making this was really hard. Like maybe you can make it on turns 2 or 3. Like making it on your first turn wasn't going to happen. But now you can make it on your first turn almost every single time. Next, I run 3 Moonbow. If you want to up Rainbow and drop Moonbow down, well, that's something you can do as well. I just only have 2. If this card is linked summon, you can special summon one of your banished weather monsters, and if this linked summon card is destroyed, you can special summon 1 Weather Painter monster from your extra deck. And the weather effect monster this card points to gains the following effect. Quick effect, banish this card, target 1 monster your opponent controls, banish it until the standby phase of the next turn. So this could also be a good option as well. Usually it's going to be an either or scenario, so it's just like, which is your opponent going to struggle with more? Banishing their cards or negating? Personally, I think negating is probably better considering we're already going to be doing some banishing with D-Shifter, Macro, and Fissure. Also run the 1 Herald of Mirage Lights. To be honest, after the main 2 monsters, it really doesn't matter after this. Also run the 1 IP, Phoenix, Unicorn, and an access code to close games out. For XDs, I ran 2 Ashura King because most of the Weather Painters are level 3s. The 1 Downward, and 2 Zeus to round out the extra deck. Now, let me know in the comments, do you think this deck has got potential in this format? Think it's a pretty cool deck? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video I make. Bye.